So good morning, everyone. Let's start here. Good morning. So today is Tanit Esther, where we commemorate the situation of Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, when the decree became known that Haman wanted, and was also given permission by the king, to annihilate every member of the Jewish people. So, and it's just also this year, the day when the news is spreading, what happened in the attack on the airport, where over 30 people were killed and many injured, a few hundred. So what's happening? It's a very serious situation. So I feel that the sign from above, in the light of what we've been studying. So I'd like to turn to chapter 83 of Tehillim, the book of Psalms, which you find in Jerusalem Bible on page 767. And to say like this, one of Hitler's Yimach Shemor's sayings, he also adopted the manifesto of Haman to destroy every Jew in the world. He said, even said it, as far as I understand it, the last year of the war, there will be no more Purim for the people of Israel. Because there won't be people of Israel. That was his propaganda. All going to disappear.
Well,
but we still have Purim. And not just the celebration, unfortunately, we have all the troubles which brought the salvation of Purim. And in fact, Hitler and Mufti Jerusalem, they increased the threat against the nation of Israel. And what is the threat today? So, as the Prime Minister of Israel said, that the writing is not on the wall. The writing now is on the missile just produced by Iran, on which it says, there's writing on that missile. The purpose of that missile is to erase Israel. And the truth is, Iran is really the main body that is financing all the terror organizations. Who knows? I don't know enough what's going on, but even Dessler, I don't know if Iran is really trying to eliminate Daesh. They're trying to eliminate Israel. Huh?
They weren't trying at the beginning.
At the beginning, but now?
Now I don't know, but at the beginning they were only going out what you would call the moderate rebels, that were even for Israel, that wanted to make a pact with Israel, and they left Daesh alone, so they would get bigger, because they knew that the West don't want them.
In any case, I'd like you to look at this chapter in Tehillim.
83?
Yes, it's on page 767.
We read it this morning, no?
Yes, but let's speak about it more thoroughly. It says, it's a prayer to God, to Hashem, do not keep silence, O God. Do not hold your peace. And be still. O God, for lo, your enemies make a tumult, and they who hate you have lifted up their head. They take crafty counsel against your people and consult against your hidden ones. means the people of Israel, the more spiritual ones who are perhaps more hidden, but they want to destroy everything. What do they say? Come and let us cut them off from being a nation. The name of Israel may no longer be mentioned. For they've consulted together with one consent. They're confederate against you. The sons of Edom and the Israelites, the old combination of Western and Eastern Nazism, anti-Semitism, and also that Israel should be obliterated from the map of the world. That's what it says on the more recent missile produced by Iran, which it says the purpose is to erase Israel. And it's got a target towards Israel, and it can hit the target from 2,000 kilometers. Then it mentions also Amalek, the next verse. So all these, the Palestinians are mentioned, and all the nations of the Middle East and others. So we look at verse 13. What do they say? Let us seek for our possessions the pastures of God. I mean, they're out against not just the people of Israel, also the land of Israel. Called Eretz Hashem, the Holy Land. And what do we say? Oh my God, make them like the whirling chaff, like the stubble before the wind, as the fire burns the wood, and as the flame sets the mountains on fire, so pursue them with their tempest, and terrify them with their storm. Now, this Pesukim, we also recite a dramatic moment on the Seder night, where the custom is to open the door. And then we read out these verses. Look at the Kapara. Came to the Fembus Arecha, over Savas Roskot Valeim, Malev Nem Kalombik Shishim Hashem. These verses were recited against the nations who want to obliterate us. And we hope that Hashem will destroy them, or or as it says further, no, fill their faces, terrify them, give them threats, pursue them, fill their faces with shame. They should seek your name, Hashem. Let them be confounded and frightened forever. Let them recognize that God is the master of the world, and let them be put to shame and perish, so that men may know, really, it doesn't say men, if you obey, they should perish, correct? And then they should know. In other words, they should perish from their hatred, the anti-Semitism, the desire to destroy others. But instead, they should know that your name is Hashem, is really compassionate, and He is the uppermost power over the whole earth. So I think this is a fantastic message today. So now let's see, what can we do about it? That's the question. We're sitting around here. So therefore, those who can follow the Hebrew, I'd just like to give the concluding remarks from what we described yesterday. This is the first column here. Because this is which we see in this Tehillim, which was described previously by the you can call it the description in the prophets and the words of the sages of the spread of Nazism, fascism, and powers of destruction of the human image and divine image, combined with hatred and destruction of the Jewish people. So it says, this is the test to which the people of Israel are brought before the Mashiach will come. What does Hashem do? It says, well, the prophet, he will bring back many Jews to the land of Israel. And we were given rulership and independence over the land of Israel. But unfortunately, there are those who have broken away from the yoke of the Torah, and they pride themselves and think that they have achieved everything. It's all come to their strength. And the more that they think they are the ones who are building up the land, and they're the ones who are responsible for all the victories, that just increases their aggressiveness. And therefore, they want, some of them, to remove the true significance of being the land of Israel. This is the final test of the exile of the divine presence, and the most difficult test to overcome. If we recognize this is a test, and we see how wide it is and how deep it is, we will know that from heaven there's been a special task for our generation to strengthen ourselves against false, materialistic outlooks upon life, and to recognize that this mistake is in the hands of those who think that it is we, the people of Israel, with our strength, that we have achieved it. We are the ones who came here, we are the ones who battled over it, and behold, we're the rulers. And Hashem on his side, he will do his part in channeling the human efforts for good and for evil, and in the course of time, faith and the fear of Hashem will come. But we've got to recognize that it won't come, it's the other way around. Some people think, okay, meanwhile, we've got to just allow the people, the Jewish people around us, to carry on in their mistaken outlook. We've got to recognize that we have a wrong understanding of our relationship to the true Master of the universe. Because we have power of freedom of choice. In which area? In the area of morality and the area of being aware that God is the one who should rule our lives. But who is the man of warfare? Who is all saying in our prayers this morning as well? He is the one who's Baal Melchama, Zoreat Baal Melchama. He is the one who decides what's the result of warfare, and his hands did it all. We've got to do our part. And the outcome of battle, we've got to do our ishtadlus according to the laws of the Torah. But the outcome, it depends on Yirat Shamayim. Everything in the hands of heaven, except the fear of heaven. Because even if a person looks objectively, Hashem has given us so many signs. When it comes to the agricultural blessing here in the land of Israel, many of the people are beginning to realize, as we even showed last Shemitah, it's amazing when you read the episode, those who kept the Shemitah, they were given more blessing than those around them. That's why observing the Shemitah is growing in Eretz Israel, even amongst villages and farmers and kibbutzim that didn't keep it, but they see sometimes that those who keep the laws of the Torah, they have more agricultural blessing than others. So surely everyone is even amazed at the enormous transformation in the agriculture of this land. If we look at the economy, similarly, not simple, that the economy of the land of Israel is being blessed in many ways. But what do we do? Because the main problem in Israel is the enormous gap between the rich and the poor. And the rich become richer, and even the heads of government-owned companies, you find the heads of the companies, they're paid, some of them 10 times as much as even the Prime Minister. They're paid enormous sums. The heads of the banks are exploiting the poor. They make enormous profits, whilst their clients become impoverished. So we're not fulfilling the way of the Torah. And this aspect was fulfilled more with the first settlers than today. They've become a capitalist country in many ways. Even the kibbutzim become capitalists, some of them. It's gone away from the way of the Torah, which is chesed, which is loving kindness. So we've got to recognize that Hashem, nevertheless, is given blessings, he's given great financial and economic wealth that's got to be distributed with Torah concepts. The rich have to help the poor. And when it comes to military success, we've seen the same thing. As the Six-Day War, nobody could deny that this was the hand of God. But people forget that. And before the Six-Day War, everyone thought that's the end of Israel. And from an ordinary military aspect, it would have been the end. But it was beyond normal military ways. So we see, Hashem, of course, we have the principle, he who comes to kill you, then you've even got to kill him. Perhaps in that we haven't been strong enough. One of the important lessons to learn from Nazism, and the predecessors from Nazism, which go back to Haman, go back to Agag, Melech Agag, the Amalekim, the time of Shaul HaMelech. So, these lessons we have to learn. So we have to learn to recognize the power of Hashem. Those who keep on carrying on in this manner with the false concept, Kochi v'otzim yodi, it's all my power and the strength of my hand, and they keep on talking in that idiom. They're to go away from it. But those who go in the opposite direction, and they recognize that we're dependent upon Hashem, therefore we have to pray to Him, we have to follow His guidance, which is given over to us. To some extent, we can say, nearly all Jews, especially those in Israel, are dedicated to some of the moral principles. They're never going to, certainly none of the leadership, are going to go to the destructive social and human evil, which is the policy, the official policy of some of the nations around us. On the other hand, we've got to be Mamlechet Kohanim. We've got to give ourselves over to this, and then certainly this will bring the Mashiach, and then there'll be revealed the great light in all its clarity, the light of Gan Eden, and all the darkness and hiddenness will be removed from this world, and we'll see the higher level of perfection through the influence of Am Yisrael, spiritual influence on the other nations, and we'll soon see either the teshuvah of the nations, even the teshuvah of the people of Israel, which can help to bring the teshuvah of the other nations. And that way we will merit to the Geula. Any comments or questions?
King Purim,
Yes.
King Achashverosh. It's not stated exactly how long he sat on the throne. It could be 10, 20, 30 years, whatever it is. And during the rule, we assume that the Jews had lived relatively peacefully and benevolently under his rule. Is that essentially correct? All right, so now anyhow, after 30 years,
Yes.
and the Jews living peacefully and quietly, Haman whispers in King Ahasuerus' ear that there's a plot against him. Overthrow the kingdom, blah, 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 blah. After 30 years, whatever time it is, that there's peaceful relations between the Israelites, the Hebrews, and the people, how could Haman convince, after 30 years, whatever time, that there is some sort of revolt or rebellion or usurpation of his throne? How could he believe this? What event could, other than just whispering and telling him there's a plot, how could he accept this?
It's clear both from all external historical sources concerning that period, and also from the Megillat Esther itself, also from the other books of the Bible that deal with the same period, Ezra and Nehemiah, that in his time, before the plot of Haman was put forward and then attempted to fulfill it, they'd already started, Jews, going to some Jews were trying their best to try and get back to Jerusalem and to build the temple. If you want to understand it more deeply, you go back to Belshazzar. According to most traditions, so Vashti was the daughter of Belshazzar. Belshazzar was the last king of the Babylonian Empire. And he made a reckoning that he knew, because Nebuchadnezzar knew about it as well. Nebuchadnezzar, according to all records, he wanted to exile the Jews, to destroy the temple. But the Jews that he brought to Babylon were to a great extent his slaves. And he also decreed they should all worship the idol and so on. So there were attempts. Well, in the Babylonian Empire, all the Jews who were under his domain, and most of them were slaves, he even tried to force them all to become idolaters and follow the Babylonian idolatry. Now they knew that the prophets of Israel had spoken that the exile will last 70 years. And after 70 years, the Jews might rebuild the temple. And Nebuchadnezzar had taken the spoil from the temple, the priestly garments, and most likely also all the Sifrei Torah, which is referred to in one of the previous questions, and all the vessels of the temple. And Belshazzar made a reckoning after the 70 years. He made that reckoning. Therefore he made a feast, and I mean at least many historians accept this as being perhaps they won't accept the full, some don't want to accept the full biblical record, but there was something very unusual that he made a big banquet, Belshazzar, and at that banquet he was assassinated. That's quite easily supported from many different sources. And the biblical record is that at that banquet he clothed himself in the guise of the high priest. He took out the vessels of the temple and he said, the Jews have not got back the temple and therefore that's the end of the Jewish people. And then they can be our slaves, yes, we'll keep them the slaves, but I'm not going to allow them to go and rebuild this temple, which Nebuchadnezzar, my grandfather, he had it burnt up. So, and he was assassinated. And I mean, let's say people who know about world culture, everyone knows the famous painting of Rembrandt, which is based on the biblical account. That at that banquet, he even saw a hand coming out and saying many parts of Taklin, which in Hebrew letters. Even in Rembrandt studied all this. Yeah. So, and then nobody could interpret it. Then Daniel interpreted it. Said your kingdom is going to be cut up between the Persians and the Medians. That's really. And anyway, then he was assassinated. And then there came the fall of the Babylonian Empire. So which not exactly clear if he was the first king or a later king. Ahasuerus usurped the throne from a low level to high level. He was able to get it also because after all his wife was a princess. So at the same time there were Jews who were trying to rebuild the new temple. It says in the book of Ezra that they stopped at Katuf Sitna. They wrote a document of hatred against the Jewish people. You may ask, why is it? It explains something about Purim. You know, there's a different celebration of Purim in cities which were surrounded with a wall in the time of Yeshua. I'll tell you what happened this year. So Beit Shemesh, we know had no evidence they were surrounded by a wall in the time of Yeshua. Today, Yerushalayim was definitely surrounded by walls, described in many sources. And there are about 5 cities, Tiberia and Lud, and others which are a doubt. There are a few cities where it's a doubt, Safek, but there's the only place where it was sure until now that it was surrounded by a wall in the time of Yeshua ben Nun is Yerushalayim. That's why in Yerushalayim we observe Shushan Purim on the 16th, and the other places observe the 14th. But what happened this year, and this is the same, it's very interesting, involved also is a great archaeologist, the Rabbi Lander, and I'm sorry I forgot again, I'll possibly get someone to bring it from the house so you can see it, because he became a big expert also on the Persian Empire, discussing all the remnants, what we know of the Persian Empire in the time of Ahasuerus. So now they found there's a city called Yarmouk, which is mentioned in the book of Yeshua, but it hasn't been found. But they found elements of it now, and it would appear it was surrounded by a wall in time of Yeshua. And therefore there's a question being raised now, whether Beit Shemesh should observe Purim like Yerushalayim. The whole question which I'm asking is, in the Megillah it doesn't mention Yerushalayim. We call it Shushan Purim. What's Shushan? Shushan was surrounded by a wall in the time of Yeshua ben Nun. That's also archaeological evidence. Yeah? And Shushan was the main center of what took place with regard to turning over and destroying turning upside down the plot of Haman. But there is a close connection, because you think they all lived at peace. Not at all. There's no question that, in fact, this is probably the best literal meaning of what it says in the Megillah. If you look carefully, the main claim of Haman was they've got a different religion to the Persian religion. That's what he said. They don't keep the religious laws. They say, they don't keep it. And there was a lot of hostility amongst the nations, amongst the other nations of the Persian Empire against the Jews. Why? They said, you've got a different religion which challenges our religion, our idolatry, our Zoroastrianism. Now, Ahasuerus had a very wide empire with various different religions, but they were all not in accordance, or they were based on forms of idolatry. They all had images and so on. Even Zoroaster, they had images of the light and the darkness. And here there's this religion. You look at what it says. They don't keep the religion of the king. And therefore, he made a decree, you've got to make a religious persecution. And if they don't accept it, they've got to be killed. Now, he says, I know they won't accept it at all, because they'll be resistant, and they're not going to follow your religion. And therefore, and he built it up. But he only said lahashmid. Lahashmid means to destroy the religion. Shmad is the destruction of religion. It's like the communists. Yeah, the communists, lahashmid. And like also Inquisition. Or if you become not secret, don't be secret Jews, be complete Christians, you become priests and so on, whatever, we accept you warmly. And that's been the policy of Christianity even through the ages, even until recent times. They'll say, if you're going to become a Christian, yeah, we'll promote you. Well, no, there was a Jewish-born Pope. Yeah, became a Christian. So this is Shmad, the Hashmid. And there was sure it wasn't only religion. It was anti-Semitism, like irrational anti-Semitism as well. It's an alien group. They keep themselves. They're different. They're doing harm to the empire. Why? Because they create. They're the ones that create such distinctions. Other groups, you can hope to put them all together somewhere. They should all become loyal citizens. But the Jews, you can't. It was the same. Even in the Roman persecution, which turned over to be out anti-Semitism. But it's also partly because they knew the Jewish religion, they're not going to give it up, the Jews. And therefore we've got to kill them all. Hitler used the same thing as a propaganda. The propaganda was a lot based upon making caricatures of everything to do with the Jewish religion. And if you look, Nazi literature, it was filled with it. And even today, the Muslim lies and propaganda, you'll see caricatures of the Jewish people, you know, what they do, what they show, drinking blood, but they generally make a picture of a Jew with a beard. This is what they want to. It's the Hashemite. When Esther said, "Don't think it's Lahashmid," she said, "It's Larugul Abed," to kill every Jew. That was hidden from Ahasuerus, and that's why they needed. Then he said he became. And in addition to that, she got Ahasuerus to suspect that Haman really wants the crown. He wants to become the future emperor, as was obvious from his desire to go and have the king's horse. So he said, okay, Haman's the danger, not the Jews. It took time for him to realize that. Okay, that's it. So I want to wish everyone happy Purim. And to say also, I'll just say this, Hitler said there'll be no more Purim because there'll be no more Jews. Yeah? And but we still have Purim. We've got the important lessons of Purim. We should concentrate upon trying to bring the message of the prophets and the sages to the awareness of the wider sections of Jewry. That's what the important thing is. Also, I just want to give a bit of a warning that if people get drunk on Purim, it's dangerous. We even had here in the yeshiva 2 years ago, somebody got drunk. And what did he do? He rushed out of the door in the dining room. Yeah. He didn't know what he was doing. He broke the glass and he wounded himself. And in a way, in a miraculous way, his injuries healed. His life was saved. But and it's very difficult. I still remember I had to get an ambulance. It was very difficult because the crowds and crowds of people in the street and cars. You couldn't get an ambulance, and we wouldn't have a certain way. So we had a miracle. It was a miracle of Purim that young fellow was saved. And people don't get drunk. You can have it. That's why I see somebody here went and bought a lot of whiskey. I want that whiskey to get out of the yeshiva. It shouldn't be here. Persuade him. Tell him it's dangerous. Because the people, especially we've got youngsters upstairs, who I see, they don't always listen to what you tell them. Don't have strong people around. It's very, very risky. And this year it's very difficult because Purim is squashed. It's not like Purim where you can go on the next night, it's before Shabbos. It's going to be such an effort, even to call. You've got to call it. You want to think you can get a taxi. You think you can get an ambulance. It's difficult. And sometimes you're trying to find. They're enough. We all got to do our best to remove drunkenness. When it's ad v'lo ad bichlal. Chayv initially v'sum ad, or v'sum means to become a bit euphoric, okay, but don't take it too far. Best it says in the Shulchan Aruch, so you should drink a bit more so you get sleepy and you can sleep until you don't know the difference between Baruch Mordechai and Baruch Haman. So there are many explanations of this which you can adopt, but the explanation, to take it literally, is a danger to life. And even people start making their explosions, they go around with it. It's forbidden, because especially, let's say, a woman is pregnant or something, an explosion has happened there. You see an explosion like that, they can miscarry. And old people can fall down, they can get a heart attack. So in here, we've got rather a difficult task here, because upstairs we've got younger chevra who are not easy to control. Okay.
Thank you.
Need everybody's help.